Hey folks, BlackCross here, and welcome back to another video, guys. Today's video, I'm going to do probably one of the most impossible things to do, especially considering the fact of how this works, and I'm not even sure if I can do it accurately, especially considering the fact that it was nearly impossible to find every image imaginable in terms of what I'm about to do, and that is to rank every Kingdom Hearts Heartless enemy. We're not going to be talking about bosses, and I'll give my reasons as to why as we go about this list, because believe it or not, this is actually going to be one of the harder ones to try to figure up. So what this is that I'm going to be ranking every Heartless design that exists within the Kingdom Hearts franchise. Now, that is going to be hard to do. Now, whenever I say it's going to be hard, it's because of the fact that we have, I'm not even sure how many Heartless we have now. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's not in every game, but like you have Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, 3, obviously. But then you also got 358 over 2 days. And it has Heartlesses. And I know there's going to be a bunch of people out there that's going to be like, well, what about Union Cross? Well, here's the thing. This is going to be based on Heartlesses that I have either faced or that I am familiar with. We're not going to be touching on Union Cross Heartlesses because of the factor that I have never played Union Cross. Therefore, I can't judge the Heartless design. So we're going to do a separate video on those in particularly. But instead, we're going to be looking at the Heartlesses of the main series. Secondly of all, we are only doing the enemies because the bosses are designed to be grandiose. Every Heartless design has its purpose, and the bosses are supposed to be standing out more because of their unique design, and they're also supposed to be, of course, bosses. So we're not going to be judging the bosses. This is purely on the enemies themselves. Thirdly, this is not including all of the Heartless. Now, here's what I mean whenever I say all of them, because some of them are more or less recolor skins of their main stapled version. So let's say, for example, we have something, the most common one being that of the Bell Heartlesses. The Bell Heartless design is literally the best way to explain it, all the same, with the only exception of its element followed by its color texture. In terms of, like, say, the main staples, you've got the red, blue, green, and yellow. But then in the later entries, they get more different color variances. Some of them do different and stuff like that. But we're not basing them on abilities. We're not basing them on, like, their power structures. We're basing them on their overall design structures. So when we go into each individual Heartless, it's going to be hard talking about them because of the fact of their designs. Which means that when you think about them, they're kind of the same, but they're also slightly different. I'm going to try my best to rate all of these Heartlesses and try to be unbiased about it. At the same time, we're probably going to be more biased because of it. And because of this, we also have to count into a factor that some people are going to be like, well, what about the final mix versions and stuff like that? Unless there's like a big difference in terms of design, there's not going to be much difference in terms of comparison. So say, for example, the one we're going to be talking about first is going to be the Shadow Heartless. We also have to consider the fact of the Mega Shadow Heartless. And really, there's not much difference other than the concept of it's bigger. So, again, it's going to be hard to do this video, but we're only going to judge them based on design. So, without further ado, let the torment begin. So first and foremost, we have the Shadow Heartless. Very basic design. It's a basic enemy. You pretty much see this one everywhere throughout the entire series, you know. Even Burst by Sleep has them, you know. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's a staple enemy. And it's also a base design of what you're going to be seeing. It's black, it's got yellow eyes, it's got antennas. Some of them have slightly claws. And for the most part, they're kind of cute, you know? They're kind of cute and adorable, depending on who you are, of course, within the community. So with that being said, this one in particularly is just going to get a C ranking. Next up, we have the Soldier Heartless design. This one is literally the second enemy that you're going to be countering in the Kingdom Hearts game. And let's put it this way, compared to the first one, this one has a very uniquely different design compared to the first one. The first one is fairly small, this one is fairly big, to a point where it's almost matched up to Sora's size, keep in mind of his age, of course. But also, too, he has more depth into him, you know? He looks like he's got a jumpsuit on him, he's got bracelets, and I love his helmet. I do love the helmet, it's very nice. We also have the fact that he has like this weird mouth thing inside the helmet from where his eyes are, and then this jagged piece. So, which leads me to believe that that is actually his mouth, and most of the Heartlesses actually have mouths like this. And so, at first I thought it was just a design choice. It may very well be a mouth, but we've never actually seen some of these Heartlesses actually open up their mouths, except for like those that actually clearly do have mouths. So, it's hard to say, but I'm going to say that's a mouthpiece as well. But ultimately, I love the Soldier Heartless. It's actually one of my most favorite enemies within the entry, and I just love his design. It's cool, it's traditional really when you think about it, and it's more unique. I'm going to give the Soldier Heartless an A. We now go on to the large body. Now, we are going in size, but we also are going by the design of the Heartless itself. And this one is a little bit goofy looking when you think about it. It's big, it's ridiculous, it's large, and really the way he acts is kind of lazy in a way. He doesn't really do much of anything until he gets about below half health, to which where he gets a little bit aggressive. In some ways, it's adorable, you know. In some ways, it's alright, you know. I kind of like it. It's not a big deal, but I do like how it's kind of like an evolution of the Soldier Heartless, and then you have the large body. And again, the pattern looks well, the jumpsuit, the way that you got these ropes trying to hold on to this large being. You know, I never realized that because of the fact that I'm constantly having to strike from behind. But yeah, it's got like a little rope design trying to hold it all together, which is kind of cute. I like it. So I'd probably give this one kind of a B rating. Like, it's not better than the Soldier Heartless, but I do like it regardless. Let's go ahead and talk about the Bell Heartlesses, because I feel like the sooner we talk about this one, the sooner we can actually bypass everything else. This is a very basic design, and I say basic because you have the hat, you have the body, it's got little tweak feet, and then you got the head where you obviously see is black face with yellow eyes and stuff. Now, this is technically the Red Nocturne. We do have the factor that we have other Heartlesses that go along with this as well. For example, we have the Green Requiem. We have the blue, I believe it's pronounced Razbod. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that because of how I've got it labeled here. It's kind of parentheses. And where is the yellow one at? I know I saved the yellow one somehow. Oh yeah, the yellow Ulcria, I believe is how it's pronounced. And really, when you think about it, they're all basic. They're really basic. There's nothing much to talk about them, other than the fact that every entry has a new set with new abilities that features with them. So whenever I say the phrase that these are very basic, they're very basic. So I probably label these with the same level as I would with the Shadow Heartless, but also too, there are more to them as well. For example, in later series, we have more Heartlesses that look like them. Like, what's another Heartless that I've saved here that's somewhat similar to that? In Kingdom Hearts 2, there's a Heartless called the Crimson Jazz, which is larger, but it's kind of the same design with the exception of the fact that it has a different color texture and it's larger. You also have the fact that in the Final Mix version, there's this black ballad, whatever, where basically Shadow clones itself. Again, we're going to be looking entirely on just the designs, and the sooner I talk about this one, the easier it will be to go through further on, Because really, in all honesty, these are all the same design structures. It's just different color altogether. Some of them are different sizes. Obviously, some of them will have different abilities and stuff. And again, we're just going to label it as C. I probably would label it as D because of how often we actually see this design throughout the series. I mean, aside from the main series like 1, 2, and 3, we also see some of them in days. So whenever I say the phrase, they're very basic and very generic. They're very easy to produce, really. All you gotta do is just come up with an element ideal, slap on a different color skin, and you're done. Fairly easy to put together. Let's go ahead and bring up the Mushroom Heartless, because technically you do encounter this one, if you're lucky enough, technically inside Alice in Wonderland. Again, if you're lucky. They sometimes show up relatively random. But it does show up in Alice in Wonderland whenever you go through it and everything like that. So, the Mushroom Heartless, very basic, very unique actually in all honesty in terms of how it looks. It's very much on par theme with Alice in Wonderland, but we do see them throughout the entire game itself, so they're relatively easy to find. It's kind of weird to see the little swirl things until you think about it and be like, maybe that's an antenna, but it could be a second pair of eyes to kind of camouflage the fact that it is a mushroom. So you're looking at the swirls for the head, but its actual head is like underneath it, but obviously that's the mushroom part of it, and then you got the main shroom part of the body itself. Again, very basic designs, but we also have the fact that it has different color textures throughout the game as well. Specifically in Kingdom Hearts 1. Kingdom Hearts 1, and technically Final Mix, of course, has a total of 3 other variances as well. You got the rare truffle, which I absolutely hate because I've never successfully beaten it. The thing is, it can only be beaten for hitting it in the air, so that's not very effective. You got the black mushrooms, which are essentially the poison mushrooms that turns to stone. So that's a pretty interesting thing. And then you got the pink Acryla, I believe. And again, same look, just different color textures. Again, just because of the design, it's just because of different colors you could slap on and stuff like that. Sort of like representing different mushrooms that you can encounter in real life. Potentially, maybe. I'd probably give these ranks of Heartlesses probably a C. Because in all honesty, aside from like the different ways that you have to fight them and stuff like that, the design is fairly simple, easy to figure out. While we're on the subject of the Mushroom Heartlesses, I do want to talk about the Organization Mushrooms. Now, here's the reason why I wanted to separate the Organization Mushrooms compared to the actual Mushroom Heartlesses within Kingdom Hearts 1. Technically, you do encounter some of them in Days, and if I'm not mistaken, also too in Coded. But Organization is slightly different in the fact that they are dressed in Organization coats, which is a major different design look altogether. While yes, they do have the appearances of a Mushroom Heartless, the fact that they're wearing Organization coats with the Heartless insignia on the coat itself makes it a little bit unique in my personal opinion. Plus, each Organization member mushroom does something different entirely, and there are 13 of them. So, because of how they look and how different it is slightly in terms of like how the regular mushrooms look, I'm going to probably give these kind of a B. Again, unique different designs, and ordinarily you probably wouldn't know it unless you were keen on terms of the design from the Organization coats themselves. Again, you can only see these in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, but I do like how they are different slightly compared to the main Mushroom Heartlesses themselves. We are 18 minutes into this, and it is taking longer than I thought it was. Dear gosh, we're going to be here for a while. So next up we have the Power Wows, which are featured in Deep Jungle. They are basically a monkey design, and funnily enough, they actually make a reappearance later in the series. Not just Chain of Memories or anything like that, but they also show up in Kingdom Hearts 3 as well, which surprised me actually, in all honesty. But again, there's not many monkey-esque designs, so to see a Power Wow in Kingdom Hearts is always welcoming to me, especially in terms of like originality from Kingdom Hearts 1. And this one's pretty cool. I do like it. The Final Mix version makes it more brown, but I do like its original color version. And again, acts like a monkey, jumps around, scratches at you and stuff like that. It's a unique design, and I do kind of like it. I'd probably give a Power Wild a B ranking, actually, in all honesty. The Bouncy Wild, which is a female variant of the Power Wild, is a female monkey. The only difference between the male variant and the female variant is the fact that it has a slingshot. It still jumps around, still looks like a monkey. It's got a bow on the back of his head, but it uses a slingshot, which makes it slightly different. Kind of annoying, actually, when you think about it, especially considering the fact that it also actually throws bananas, which, if slipped on, you lose money out of it, which it makes a difference slightly. But again, because of its differences, it's not going to be much difference in terms of how the Power Wilds are. I'm glad we don't see this as often, but we do see it quite a lot in Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. So, with that being said, I'd probably give this one a B as well, but due to abilities, I'd probably give it a lower ranking, but again, we're talking about design, so it's kind of leveled up in the same way as the Power Wild is. Now let's talk about the bandits that you see in Kingdom Hearts 1 Agrabah. These are really cool. I do like how these guys look. They are very much a dark version of what a bandit would normally look like. Very much look like traditional bandits that you would see out in the desert and stuff. So it's one of those things where it's like, I do like how they look, I like how they're dressed. I do like how the factor that they're also layered in jewelry within their wrists and their fingers. It's very nice. You wouldn't ordinarily see this design, but I do like it regardless. It is very unique. I probably leveled this with that of the Soldier Heartless, but I probably would put it more towards B rather than A. The Fat Bandits. Now, this is pretty much like the large body, except this is a bandit variety. It very much looks like somebody that is large and what they would wear being in their large physiqueness. And I do like this one. It is very unique, it's very different, and I love how it just matches up alongside with Agrabah. It just matches with it. I do like this one. So, unlike the bandits, I probably leveled this in A ranking as well, surprisingly. So I had to do something real quickly, mostly because of the fact that technically, this is a different design compared to the Air Heartless Soldier that I had downloaded. Apparently it had a redesign. I didn't realize that. I forgot about that. But anyway, so real quickly, we're going to talk about this version, but then later on we're going to come back to this one because of its redesign. So this is an Air Soldier. This Air Soldier, you kind of first see it in Montreux, but it can be encountered, probably not Agrabah, but probably in Traverse Town. But either way, you do see this relatively halfway through the game. And its design, I like it. It kind of reminds me of a steampunk looking Heartless, considering the fact that the way that it looks like as though as if it's just a regular Soldier Heartless, but with a brown looking design. Keep in mind, it's got like a little, what you call them, those, the pilot hats with the little goggles on there, and it's got like a little propeller on top, and I do like the little bat wings. I do like the fact that in this design concept per se, it looks like it's bolted onto the little black straps that's on the back of it. So it's very steampunk looking design. It's probably one of the reasons why most people associate this Heartless with Monstro, but it can be seen in other areas as well. But I do like its design. Would I say that its levels that of the Soldier Heartless? I'm actually going to give it as a B ranking. As we continue on, we're going to see more and more different unique designs that I actually prefer more so compared to the Air Soldier. But not to say that the Air Soldier is bad. I do like it, but it's going to be a B category. We now have the Search Ghost, Heartless. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. I did not realize how often we use this design in the Kingdom Hearts series. I was only familiar with seeing it within Kingdom Hearts 1 and Chain of Memories, but apparently this design is also seen in Days. Did not know that. But its design is very cool looking. I like the ghostly look. I love the chain ball eyeball that hangs around. You do see a little bit of exposed rib. Definitely gives it the undead look to it and stuff like that. But overall, I love this design. It's cute. It's fun. It's interesting to look at. And really, in all honesty, it's really creative, really. Especially considering that is rare Heartless variant, which is that of the, what's that called? I know I technically saved it because of its uniqueness. Well, either way, I love the design of it, and really, in all honesty, it works well considering the areas that it's at. It's seen in Monstro, Atlantica, and is also seen in Halloween Town. It makes sense for Monstro and Atlantica, because as Mech has kind of referred to me whenever we were playing through the series and stuff like that, he kind of reminded me of the fact that it could be the undead people, their spirits, resonating within Monstro and Atlantica from like sunken ships and stuff like that, which is pretty dark. I didn't think that far, but it kind of makes sense in terms of its originality of location. Halloween Town theme, Halloween makes perfect sense, and really because of how Halloween Town is in terms of texture design, the textures actually work well for the Search Ghost design. You know, if you look carefully at the two designs, they're slightly different, but I do like how it works well and is cool looking. I do like it. I hate the fact that sometimes it pops in and then pops out at times, but I still love its design. So I'm going to give this one a A ranking, actually, in all honesty. You know it's bad whenever you realize you made a bad idea, whenever you're still in the first game of the entry, and we still have so many more Heartlesses to go. It's taking us forever now. This particular Heartless is featured in Atlantica, known as the Shettlering Zone. Shettlering Zone? I'm not even sure if that's how you pronounce it. It's basically a jellyfish, which, in hindsight, it's a pretty cool design look, really. It's okay. I personally am not a big fan of this design. It's kind of simplistic, kind of boring, and I really hate its larger variant, the larger size variant, which basically is a same look, just done differently, and really, technically, it's one of the harder ones that I hate fighting, and I don't care much for this design. This is actually going to be the first Heartless that we find that I generally hate, and I probably would put this as an F, because, again, it's very boring, I find it. We now have the Screwdivers, which didn't think that was the name that it was given, but yeah, it's the Screwdiver. And I kind of like this one. This one's actually a unique design, personally. I like it. I like the fact that it still carries on a fish-looking design, yet at the same time, it looks like an actual diver. But it also acts like a missile in a way whenever it comes towards you and attacks you. You know, every once in a while, it'll just spin around and attacks you with his lance, but it will actually, like, charge right at you, and it's really cool. I do like it. I'd probably level this one, however, though, as a C rather than a B or an A. I put it as a C. We're now going to talk about the Aqua Tank, the large, bloat-looking fish that can absorb lightning, I suppose, because of its freaking horn. But also, too, the fact that whenever it comes down, every once in a while, it'll be teamed up with the Screwdiver. So it sort of acts like as an actual tank, and it launches torpedoes at you, which is comparison to another Heartless, another rare Heartless that we see later on in the game in Neverland. But we're talking about this particular design of the Heartless. I like it, personally. I like it. It's chubby looking. It's kind of adorable with the fact that we actually do see the jagged look on the teeth open, actually, and it actually reacts and stuff. I like it. It's gonna be a B rather than the C. I forgot to talk about these things, so let's go ahead and talk about them. The pot spider is a spider. I don't like spiders, personally. Pot spiders, I don't really care much for them. I kind of find them a little bit annoying at times, especially the way they jump around and stuff like that. So generally, I try to kind of stay away from these things. I probably put this one as a D. So yeah, that's what we'll do. Weirdly enough, while I don't care much for the pot spider variant, I actually kind of like the barrel spiders, you know? They have a little bit more uniqueness to them. They've got a little punctured hole for the eyeball to look through and stuff like that. Plus, not only that, they also explode, which means I can deal with them relatively quickly, and really, in terms of tactics, if you were to use this in a group of Heartlesses, the rest of them would not only lose HP, but they would also be phased out for a while. So it's one of those things where it's like, the pot spiders I don't care much for, but the barrel spiders, I find them actually a little bit more attractive in a weird way. Again, not big on spiders, but I do like this one better than the pot spider. So I'm going to probably level this one as probably a B. This is going to be the first of the rare Heartless variances that we're going to be talking about, mostly because it is drastically different than the pot spider that we see. This is a pot scorpion, a uniquely different design altogether. It's got claws, it's got a pincer on the back of it and stuff like that. It's fairly unique. I actually kind of like this one, and again, because we actually get to see its eyes, we actually see a unique difference to it and stuff like that. I probably leveled this one with a B as well. I generally like the scorpion design, as to oppose the spider design, which again is weird, but I kind of like it because there's a little bit more depth to this. We are now with the White Knights, or the Writhe Knights. I'm not sure the proper pronunciation because of the W-I-G-H-T. I believe it's White Knight, but who knows what the proper pronunciation is. But it's basically a mummified Heartless. And I kind of like this one. I do like it. I find that the Halloween Town representation of Heartlesses are cooler looking in terms of how they look and how well they work well. And especially the way this one fights, it's very skinny, so it's just kind of whaps around and stuff like that, much to its design of a mummy and stuff. So I kind of like it. It's probably a B, I would say. I do like it. We now have the Gargoyle Heartless that we see within Halloween Town as well. And I do like this one too. I do like it. Very few air Heartless designs would I say that I generally like, but I do like this one, especially if you manage to catch it when you enter into a new area. It's usually perched, waiting for you to come past it and stuff like that, and then it will start to loom in and attack you. I like how it moves, I like how it attacks, I like how it looks in general, and it's pretty cool looking, so I probably level this one with a B as well. The Chimera Heartless. This is the one Heartless that I actually thought was an actual boss because of how it looks. When I saw how it looks, I actually thought it was a boss within the final mix version of Kingdom Hearts. It turns out it was an rare Heartless, which means you find this quite often and quite easily foundable. But it has more HP than any of the rare Heartlesses, and generally is either easy to take down or it takes a long time to take it down depending on how you go about fighting it. Essentially, it's what looks like a giant trash can with pincers, scissors, giant fists with 3 heads in a jar. It's very cool looking. I'm not gonna lie, I do like it. It's kind of a Frankenstein-esque look. And again, because of how it looks, I thought it was a boss. But it's actually level size of that of like a large body in a way. But again, I love its design. I love how it looks. I'd probably say this one is an A rank as well. I do love the look of it. It's very, very cool. For those that are curious, I completely forgot that I have an S tier. But I'm just going to forget about the S tier because really, in all honesty, I don't think there's any Heartless that I would say is like absolute S tier. But it's generally, if it's an A, I absolutely love it. F, I absolutely hate it. I know it's kind of late in the game talking about the tier list and stuff like that, but considering how long it's taking to make this video, I'm just now realizing I didn't put any Heartless as A, and I should have put like the Soldier as A and stuff like that, but I'm like, fuck it, let's just screw the S tier and just stick with A to F. It'd be easier, I think, at this point. We finally get to talk about the Pirate Heartless. I love the pirates. I love how they look. They are awesome looking. They are very much the same reason why I like the Soldier Heartless, but in pirate form. And this one is a very more unique design. Way more detailed. It's got a freaking eye patch along with a little swirl on the bandana. It's got a skull on the shoulder. It's got a sword that looks like it's got a face on it. It looks like it's got a face on the sword. At first I thought it was just weirdly cracked, but no, it actually looks like it's got an actual face with the swirl for the eyes and then the cracked ridge for the mouth. It's very unique. I love that design. And I just love how it looks. It looks so cool. So I'm going to level this as an A as well. Now let's talk about the Air Pirates. The Air Pirates, same reason why I like the Pirate Heartless, except it doesn't have an eye patch, but rather it just has like this sailor cap look, almost as though as if it was actually perched up to the crow's nest. And then it's got like this interesting bat wing look, but it looks like sails actually, I believe is what it looks like. But it's also got big humongous fists, obviously for like pounding on the ground on people who are in the ground and stuff like that, or punch them in midair and stuff like that. I just like how it looks. I think for the majority of the pirate variant Heartlesses, I like how they look, especially considering the fact that, you know, Kingdom Hearts 1, they got some pretty cool looking designs out of them. So I'm going to level the Air Pirate as an A as well. We now have the Battleship Heartless, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the very few Heartlesses that have multiple parts to them that you can lock on to them, and actually has different health points. This would be classified probably as its own individual boss if you wanted to, but because of how often we actually see this in Kingdom Hearts 1, it's fairly common. So it's one of those things where it's like, despite how common it is, I love how it looks. The fact that it's just on a flying boat, and it will fire cannons at you, it will charge at you, and if you're not careful, it will actually heal its allies. Yes, it has missiles that it will launch at an enemy, and it will just heal them, and it's like, ah! But I still love the cool design of it. I love how it looks. I love how big and uniquely different it is, you know? The fact that there's multiple parts to them, the way that it attacks, and stuff like that. It works better whenever you're fighting it in Neverland, but if you're like fighting in like the Colosseum and stuff like that, they can be very aggressive and hard to fight and hard to hit sometimes too. But I just love how it looks. I'm leveling this as well as an A. I just love its unique look design. We're finally at the Hollow Bastion level looking Heartlesses, and for what these are, they're vastly different. They're vastly more, I suppose you could say, mature looking compared to like the rest of the times. You know, you look at like all the different Heartlesses from the different worlds, and then you see Hollow Bastion, and you can feel like as if it's literally like towards the end of the game, because you start to see more unique looking designs. And so the Wizard Heartless is definitely one of them. It has the ability to cast spells, it disappears, it has a shield when it uses thunder and stuff like that. But with that being said, I do like how it looks. It kind of has like a Vivi looking to it in a way. In a weird way, it kind of looks like Vivi, but not really. If some people get what I'm saying, it kind of has this traditional looking of a black mage, but in a Heartless design. I actually kind of like it. I'm probably going to level this as a B, just because I like how it looks. The Defender Heartless. These guys are probably a lot more harder to fight compared to that of the large bodies and the fat bandits. The reason why I say it's harder because if you try attacking it head on, good luck, that shield is indestructible. It will also attack you and shoot fireballs. So your best bet is to attack anywhere except the front of it. So attack from the sides, attack from the back of it, and you'll be fine. But I love how it looks. I like how it's just got big brooding arms like a freaking gorilla almost. But it has one of them holding the shield, and the shield looks like a three-eyed Cerberus dog. I just like how this looks. It looks really, really cool. Despite the fact how dangerous it is, I like how cool it looks. It looks really, really awesome. So I'm just going to level this as an A as well, but I just like how it looks. We have the Rhyme here. We have the Wyvern? Ryvern? I believe it's Ryvern. I'm not sure. But it looks like a dragon. I like how it looks. I like how it has like torn wing bits on the end of it and stuff like that. And of how it just swoops in. It very much is a dragon. It's probably one of the only dragon designs Heartless that we actually see throughout the entire series, I believe. We do actually see an actual dragon, but it looks like it's got a trash bag on the head of it. But this is actually a dragon design that I can get behind, and it looks cool. Would I put it as an A? No, I'd probably put it as a B. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dark Ball. Probably one of the more annoying enemies you'll probably encounter, mostly because it feels like you're being pummeled to death by a giant beach ball. Literally, as it's like kind of twitching around, bashing onto you and stuff like that, it sounds and feels like a beach ball. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's slightly annoying, but it's kind of cute in a way because it kind of munches around and stuff like that. I like the unique look of it and stuff like that. It's just a floating head though. But I'd probably say it's probably a C rather than a B that what we've had so far. So probably a C ranking for this one. We finally talk about the Neo Shadow. This is practically a final mix only character in terms of Kingdom Hearts 1. We do see this later on in the series, but in terms of the design, it's a more mature looking, and in a way, it's kind of more scarier than a Shadow Heartless. So it's sort of an evolution from a Shadow, and now is a Neo Shadow. So I kind of like it. I like how it looks. It'd probably be a B, mostly because of how advanced it feels. It feels like as if you're dealing with a stronger presence of a Heartless, and it definitely shows in terms of how it's represented in Kingdom Hearts 1, and I believe you also see in Kingdom Hearts 2 as well, in terms of being able to fight it, of course. The Invisibles Heartless, or as I like to call them, the Invincible. Because, quite frankly, these are the most terrifying Heartless that you will ever come across. They are very demonic looking. They have a freaking sword that they will hit you with. And if you don't kill them fast enough, they'll disappear, surround you in a black ring of fire, and just almost kill you if you're not careful. Again, these are very deadly looking, but they are also awesome looking. They are tough looking. They're very demonic looking. Kind of almost as though as if they were summoned by Chernobog itself, which is convenient because you start to encounter them at the end of the world, which is where Chernobog actually turns up. But again, I love how it looks. It's so cool looking. It's going to be a B. The Angel Star Heartless. This thing, I don't care much for it. It kind of looks like a giant light bulb with wings. That's basically what it is. It's a giant light bulb with wings. I don't care much for it. I kind of see what they were going with. They were going for the same design choice as they were going with the Invisibles, where the Angel Star kind of like a demonic angel in a weird way, which kind of works for the end of the world theme and stuff like that. But I don't care much for this one compared to the Invisibles, so I probably put this one as a D as well. I want to go ahead and jump into Kingdom Hearts 2, but we will kind of backtrack into days, mostly because I feel like we'll knock out plenty of Heartlesses if we go into Kingdom Hearts 2 variety. So this is going to be hard to do because, again, there's a lot of different design looks in terms of how the Heartlesses are in Kingdom Hearts 2. They definitely had a creative team going on when looking towards Kingdom Hearts 2. So let's go ahead and do a lot of these, shall we? First up, we have the Nightwalker, which is first featured in the Land of Dragons. I like how this one is. It definitely kind of floats around, kind of hops around, almost kind of like how the traditional looking Nightwalkers look and stuff like that. I kind of like how it looks. I'd probably say this one will probably be a B. I kind of like it. I do like it in a certain sense. It's pretty cool looking. These Assault Riders. These are overpowered freaking centaurs. They literally hit you like a freaking truck. But because of their design, it's pretty cool looking. They literally look like as though as if they're a large soldier variant that you would see in Asia in a way. I do like how they look. In terms of like designs, it's kind of weird abstracting to see a horse centaur on the bottom, but then you see the soldier portion on the top part of it. It's kind of a weird abstract look to them. It works in terms of Heartless designs. In terms of overall design, I don't care much for this one. I probably leveled this as a C anyway. These bolt towers, you also see them in Land of Dragons as well, but they do feature into other worlds as well. For example, most notably within Disney Castle, surprisingly. But I do like how they kind of look. They're very flexible in the sense of how they move and stuff, but they can also shock you if you're not careful. But they mostly just kind of like bash downward like a hammer almost. So it's kind of a weird design to them. I'm not even sure if they are a tower. I'm not sure where their base design is. I imagine it's more like a mallet kind of in a way, or a mace depending. It's kind of weird looking. I'd probably say this one probably more a D rather than anything, I think. The Rapid Thruster, I believe is what they're named. I kind of like how they look. They're kind of weird looking in the sense of you got a beak looking to them, but they've also got stubby little feet to them at the other opposite end. Yet you only see their propeller and their heads. So it's kind of interesting. It kind of lacks in terms of design choice. You do see a lot of these. So it's one of those things where as soon as you see one, you're going to see a whole mess of them. And most people would recognize them for the swarm that you encounter in Land of Dragons. So there you go on that. It's okay. Again, it lacks in terms of design. It'd probably be a D, I would say, though, unfortunately. Technically, we see these in Chain of Memories as well, so I might as well counter this one as well as the other two in the process of it. The Creeper Plant Heartless. I like how this one looks. It's pretty cool looking. It's pretty interesting as well. It's also something funny in Kingdom Hearts 2 where you can actually uproot them, which is pretty cool, I thought. It's really interesting. I probably label this, however, though, as a C, unfortunately. I believe it's pronounced Crescendo? Crescendo? It's basically a horn, essentially. It's a horn with, interesting enough, its head looks like a note with headphones on it. It's pretty interesting. It's also, it's basic. You kind of see this one in Chain of Memories with Alice in Wonderland, which makes sense because it kind of reminds you of the platypus-looking horn honkers in a way. But it's pretty cool to see this one. I wouldn't say that I like it as much, so I probably give this one a C as well. Tornado Step is what these are called. And I kind of like these. I like these. These are pretty unique. They've got like little ears. I believe those are ears. Those are going to be some weird arms when you think about it because they're attached to the head. But I kind of like it. It's pretty interesting and it's unique. I like the design of it. So I probably label this, however, unlike with the other two, I labeled this with a B. I want to talk about both the Gargoyle Knight and the Gargoyle Warrior because you see both of these in Beast's castle. They're essentially the same, but each one is slightly different design. Let's take a look at the Gargoyle variant, as it seems more demotic looking in comparison to its warrior design. The warrior design looks a little bit more standardized. It looks like as if it's armorized in a way compared to its demotic looking one. Both of which are kind of the same but slightly different in terms of design choice and weapon, actually, in all honesty. The warrior has an axe, which is more blunt feeling, and then you have the knight variant, which is basically more whimsical in a weird sense because the way it swoops down on you with is freaking I believe it's a rapier, I believe is what they are. So it's kind of interesting to see it. So I probably label both of these, despite how different they look, they're kind of the same almost. I'm probably label both of these as a B. The Rapid Dog. You first start to see this one in the Underworld in Olympic Coliseum. It's pretty interesting to see this design. It definitely feels like they are a dog in a sense. They're easy to kill though, so it's kind of hard to see them because of how quickly they die out and stuff. But it's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool to see how they act and stuff like that. I kind of wish that they were given a little bit more uniqueness to them, as they feel more like a tiny dog in a sense. And tiny dogs are cute. But this one was so small and it's hard to kind of see it within a crowd. But they're pretty cool nonetheless. So I'd probably say this one's probably a... I don't want to give it a D, but I want to give it a C. Real quickly, I'm going to go ahead and cover the Bookmaster. There are two other variances as well. They're like Barrier and Rune Masters. But essentially, it's the same thing. It's a little guy with a hat and what looks like a robe. And he's riding on a book. And I kind of like it. Kind of reminds me of a gnome in a library in a weird way. Again, because of how it is in terms of the spell book and stuff. And it can actually use the book as a freaking weapon. And it's pretty cool to see it. It just rides around in the book. And then every once in a while, it'll just whack you with the book. It's pretty cool. I like it. Probably give this one a B. We have the Armor Knights. These guys, they're pretty cool looking. I'm not going to lie. I do like how they look. You fight a lot of these, mostly because of the 1000 Heartless fight. But you fight a lot of these. I kind of like how they look. They are definitely soldiers. And it's pretty cool because you get to hear the little clanging of the armor bits and stuff like that. They got a little sword attached to them, which is unique. They also kind of float around in a sense, depending on how you fight them and stuff like that. And I kind of like them. I do like the armor. It's definitely not outranked by the Soldier Heartless. So the Armor Heartless, I would give a B. Surveillance Robot. These guys are pretty cool looking in the sense they look like surveillance robots. They kind of float around and stuff. They got a interesting disc to them, which looks like a ninja star, but they can also shoot lasers as well. So like how surveillance cameras would react and stuff like that. But we see a few variants of this one as well, such as a destroyer title looking one. And I believe we also see some of these in Days as well. But this is pretty cool looking. I like it pretty well. Although I probably label this as probably... Nah, I'm going to label it as a B. This is the Lance Soldier Heartless. I kind of like these. I like these guys. The first time I actually saw these, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool looking. We actually see a interesting skinny looking Heartless with a lance. This is pretty interesting. I like it. And I especially like it whenever the lance kind of goes crazy and stuff like that. The lance actually acts as a separate entity, and the soldier, and that's particular soldier is trying to control the lance. It's kind of cute to see it try to fight and stuff. I like it. I do like how it looks. I probably label this one actually as an A, but it's not better than a Soldier Heartless. But I like how it looks. I like how it is. I like how it acts. Next up, we have the Hammer Frame. This is basically a giant hammer. You first start to see these things in Timeless River, but you do get to see it out roaming around a little bit here and there. I like it. I like it. It's really interesting. It's pretty creative in terms of how it looks. It's essentially a body with a hammer head, and it can slam down and stuff like that. I like it. It's pretty cool looking. I'll probably give this one a B. The Aeroplane. We see this one also in Timeless River. It's pretty cool looking. Kind of reminds me of a toy airplane. The way that it looks and the way that it acts. So I'd probably say this one, probably a C actually, in all honesty. Cannon gun. I like how this one looks. You see the face on the body of the cannon, but it also has what looks like a secondary face towards the head of it, or mouth, depending on how you look at a cannon. But it's pretty cool looking. I kind of like it. It's not any different than most common Heartlesses, I find. I'd probably give this one a C. The Driller Mole Heartless, however, though, I like how these look. I like how unique they are. They dive into the ground and then they pop up. They can be pretty damaging. I kind of like how they look. They have like this gremlin look to them. I do like them. They're pretty cool looking. So I probably label this one as a B. Bulky Vendor. This is essentially a prize Heartless. You don't actually fight it. You find it. And then you get whatever prize it gives you and stuff like that. And they're pretty cool looking. I do like the fact that it kind of looks like an actual like prize thing. I kind of wish it was a little bit more bigger to where you could kind of see it better, as it's just like kind of miniature almost in a way. So it's one of those things where I kind of like it, but at the same time I don't like it because it just disappears and then you have to find it. But at the same time, I do like how it looks. I'd probably label this as a C, though. You know what's funny? We've been talking about Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartlesses and stuff like that, but I completely forgot about this one. This is technically a Bite Sniper, which is only seen as a Heartless enemy whenever you're fighting against Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, in his final forms and stuff. But this is technically a Heartless enemy. I completely forgot about this one. So I felt like I need to go ahead and talk about this one real quickly. I just saw it show up and everything like that. So I was like, okay, well, I got to talk about this one. I forgot about it. But I probably labeled this one actually as a D because of how little you see it. And especially since it blends in with the backgrounds during the fight. So it's going to be a D. You know, going through this list right now, I probably should have done it alphabetically, but I wanted to go based on series appearances, but so far we haven't done a really good job at that, so unfortunately I feel sorry for that. This one we have Fiery Globe. This is a tiny little fire Heartless that we actually encounter in Agrabah. I kind of like it, but it doesn't really stand out much in terms of how some of the other Heartlesses we would encounter and stuff like that. So I'm going to label this one as a C, as well as its Ice Cube counterpart, which you also see as well. But again, because of how tiny they are, you tend to miss them out from time to time. But again, I do like how unique they are. Time we finally talk about the Hot Rod Heartless, the car maniac looking Heartless. I like how it looks now that I actually got a better look at it. I like how the fact that it has a Heartless symbol literally as a hood ornament. I like how it looks. You know, what's interesting, though, is that the design of this Heartless kind of reminds me of the design of the early Cars look that Disney would draw and everything like that. If you're not familiar with it, this is the design of how the Disney early animation looks of the Cars. Not to be mistaken by the Cars that Pixar made and stuff like that. But it can be looked at it in that way in a sense. But I like how it kind of referenced it in a way. But I still like the Heartless looking one. I do kind of like this one. I probably labeled this as a B. Finally, time to talk about the Morning Star. This one's pretty cool looking. Despite the fact that it's basically a large body with an armor look to it, it's got spikes. It can jump up and pound on you if you're not careful. But it's really cool in terms of the reaction command, because you can kind of bounce it around like a basketball almost, which is pretty cool looking. I do like the design, however, though. I really do enjoy it. I'd probably give this one a B. We have the Trick Ghost. I actually like this one pretty well. I don't like it better than the Search Ghost, but I like how cool this looks. It flips around actually, and depending on which angle it is, you're essentially fighting the same Heartless, but it looks completely different whenever you flip it around. It's pretty cool looking. It's pretty interesting. I actually like this one. I would label this as a B. So the Toy Soldier, as well as the, I believe it's called Graveyard. Where are you at? Here are Graveyard. The Toy Soldier and the Graveyard variant Heartlesses that you see both in Halloween Town, also Christmas Town technically. I like how they look. They're very similar, but they're also very different in terms of their overall designs. I like how they are. I like how they pop open and they have a different look to them. You have the Toy Soldier, which is Christmas Town, and then you have Graveyard, which is Halloween Town. They're both really cool looking. I do like their designs. I would just label both of them, however, though, as a B. We have here a Possessor. We rarely see this Heartless that often. We only see it at a very few moments in time. We see it kind of show up whenever we fight against the door boss Heartless. We also see it pop up whenever we destroy the Gargoyle Knight and the Gargoyle Warrior. Whenever we destroy it and stuff like that. So very rarely we see this Heartless pop up, but every once in a while we will actually see it. It's pretty cool looking, but because of how easily it's missable, it's hard to kind of pick it up. So I probably label this as a D. Aerial Knocker kind of reminds you of a parrot in a weird way. We see this one in Pride Lands, but it's just weird just to see it with boxing gloves in its feet. And it has wings on its head. It's a weird looking design, but it's pretty cool looking. I kind of dig it. I probably labeled this though as a C. We have the Shaman. This Shaman, I like how it looks actually. I like how it looks. They've done really well in terms of the design of it. We don't see it as often. We see it as another variant of Heartless, which we'll talk about in just a sec. But the Shaman one, I kind of like how it looks. It works really well in terms of the design. And I like how the tail is wrapped around the staff. And it's pretty cool looking. I do like it. So I probably labeled this. I want to give it an A because I like it. But because how very little I see it, it probably would be a B. But I like it so well, I'm just going to give it an A. You know what's interesting about this particular Heartless? Every once in a while, it is seen being ridden by a shaman, yet even though we see it by itself, and then even a shaman riding it, it is still technically classified as the same Heartless, which is weird. I've just now found this out. And it's called the Living Bone. It's basically what looks like a giant, I want to say, kind of a... I'm not sure what type of animal you would call this one, especially since we have the skull mouth that it has, and then you have the tail end of it, which looks like a chain ball in a weird way. I like it, but it's weird seeing how that even though it is still classified as the same entity of Heartless, even though the shaman every once in a while rides on the back of it. And by that point, it has a different moveset, which is weird. So it's like, okay, different moveset if it's being ridden by a shaman, but completely different attack points if it's just by itself. So it's kind of weird. I honestly had no idea. But I kind of like them in a weird way. I do kind of like them. I probably labeled this, though, however, though, as a B. Here is a Lunar Bandit, not to be mistaken by a redesign of the Bandit Heartless, but it is a bandit nonetheless, which you see in Agrabah. So, while it may seem like as though as if the Bandit Heartless has a redesign, which technically it could be, but it's technically labeled as a Luna Bandit. So, it's pretty interesting. I do like it. It's weird of how in the final mix version, the two size weapons are actually combined into one, while in the original version, it has them separately. I don't know why that is. I never really noticed that. But it's unique. I like it. It's pretty interesting to see them fight and stuff like that. I probably labeled this, though, as a C, though. I am trying carefully to keep track of all the Heartlesses we've talked about and stuff like that, and I am slowly losing my mind. Why did I decide this was a good idea to make a video? Here we have a Minute Bomb Heartless, and in all honesty, I did not realize that we had so many of them that show up within the entry, especially in Days and Coded. Did not know that. But the Minute Bombs, they're pretty okay, but they're pretty standard, I feel like. They're not unique in terms of how they look. They essentially look like a tiny little Heartless with a cracked bomb on their head and stuff like that. So I probably labeled this as a D. I like the hookbacks. The hookbacks are actually pretty cool looking. I like their design and all that. I probably labeled this though as a B. So now let's talk about some of the handheld versions of the Heartless like Days and Recoded. Let's talk about the block bug. These are essentially data bugs that are featured within Kingdom Hearts Coded. You see this variant and then you also see the damaged bug variant. But essentially it's a cube with spider legs. I probably labeled this though as like probably a C, especially with the damaged bug. They're not much unique compared to a pot spider or a barrel spider. This one is classified as a chimeball monkey. I'm not sure if that is the correct name, as there's like 3 different versions, I think, of this particular one. But it's essentially one of those chime monkey things, I believe is what they're supposed to represent. I kind of like it though, I do. It's kind of interesting to see it's 2 points, kind of like a Chester in a way. So it's more like a Chester playing with chimes rather than a monkey. But I do kind of like it. I'd probably give this a C though. Here is a creep worm. It's a little bug thing that you see in Halloween Town in Days. It's pretty cool looking. I do kind of like it. I'd probably label this though as a C. Here we have the dire plant variant, not to be mistaken by the creeper plant though. While it does look somewhat the same, it is slightly different in the sense of how the base looks. But I probably label this though as a C. I completely forgot about the Devastator. What the heck is wrong with me? Gosh, it's hard to keep track with all these Heartlesses, especially since we've had more than a page of freaking Heartless information. Gosh, this rating system's driving me nuts. But here we have the Devastator. I like how this one looks. It's pretty cool looking in how it's designed. It's definitely kind of cool to see it more at like a tank. A tank Heartless? That's pretty terrifying once you think about it, but it's pretty cool looking. I'd probably say a B with this one. And we forgot this one too. What the heck's wrong with me? The Starfur Heartless we see in Tron's World. These are pretty cool looking. I do like how they function. They function like as though if they're like a robot in a way. The way they move and the way they act and stuff. It's pretty cool. I probably label this though, however, as a C. And we forgot the fortune teller. How could I forget the fortune teller? Freaking gosh, what's wrong with me? There's so many more Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartless that I forgot to talk about. I should have gone through alphabetically rather than anything, gosh. But the fortune teller Heartless, is it weird for me to say that I find this somewhat attractive? Like, I don't know why. I find this somewhat attractive, especially the way it moves. It's very elegant in the sense, I mean, aside from it being a fortune teller, it acts like as though as if it's a belly dancer. I kind of like how this looks. I'd probably say this one's sort of a B. I don't know why, but I'm going to label it as a B because I do like how it looks. Magnum Loader. These are the one-wheeled racer Heartlesses that you see in Tron's World. You see variants of color versions, different neon colors. They're pretty cool. I do like how they are. I like how they function. They work well with the cycle one that you do in Tron's World. They work really, really well. I like their overall color scheme. They're all kind of the same, though, in the sense of how they function. So I'd probably say these are probably more of a B category. I honestly don't know if this one's considered a boss enemy or not, but because of how there's so many different variances of this particular Heartless, I honestly don't care, but I do want to talk about them. This is a dual blade version, but there are multiple variants of this particular Heartless in Days. And when I first saw this one, I loved how it looked. I love how cool it looks. I love how unique it was. And I love the fact that it was a dual blade Heartless. It was so cool and fascinating to me. And I would label this as an A. And I don't know if it's considered as a sub-boss or not, but I don't know. But because we see it so often in Days, I'm just going to label it as a regular enemy. This is considered as an aerial master. And it's weird because it kind of reminds me more of a air pirate because of how it looks. I'm sure it acts the same as an air pirate because of how it looks with his fists and stuff like that, but it's uniquely different in the sense that it's in Days, you know? I like it pretty well, but I probably label this more as a B rather than an A, so it's going to be a B. So this is called a Fluttering? It's a pure blood Heartless. It looks more like a regular bat. I probably label this, though, as a C. Flame Core, Water Core, and Earth Core, they are all essentially somewhat the same, but yet some of them feel different. I don't know what it is about how they are. While they are essentially the same Heartless, they're an orb with an element, they all look and feel different, which is so weird. I don't know how it is, but they just look so different. They do. They don't look the same like as those the Bell Heartlesses, you know, of how they're all essentially the same but with different colors and textures to them. This one just, they all feel different. And I love that. I love the fact that they make them feel different despite the fact that they are somewhat the same. The way they act, the way they look, I love how they did that. Despite the fact that they all look the same, they feel different. They look different. They act different. And I want to give them different rankings, but they're all essentially in the same category as I would label them, which is a B category. I want to talk about this Heartless in particularly, known as a Marionette. This Heartless takes up the form of multiple Heartlesses, mostly because of how it functions. This is essentially sort of like the Possessor Heartless. It is even featured seen possessing Buzz in the Toy Story world, but it possesses these bouncy plushes, the plush ones, and then these tank slash transformers, I believe they are, but they're essentially what looks like little tank looking things in the game and stuff. And the fact that it can possess these things, its base design looks cool. I do like it. So I would label this one as probably I want to give it an A because of how it looks. It looks fun. It looks cool. And again, because of how it's designed, it's very much how it's designed. It's like a marionette. So it's going to be an A category. As for the different objects it possesses, however, though, it lowers in quality. For example, the drones and the bouncy ones, they are more towards the C category. But I like the patchwork variants, the plush-looking ones. So I'm probably labeled the plush-looking ones as B, and then everything else that it possesses as a C category. We are coming back to the Air Soldier, but unlike the previous Air Soldier, this one is redesigned to work towards the Olympic Coliseum world. It looks very much like a Trojan warrior, but it looks like as if it's got the wings of Hermes and stuff like that. I kind of like it. I do kind of like it. I don't know if I like it better than the Air Heartless, though. But I want to say I kind of like its redesign. I wish it was named differently, though, rather than being called an Air Soldier. I would rather call it as an Air Hermes or just Hermes in genuine. I don't care if you have to rename it into something different. Just don't make it the same enemy as the Air Soldier because both of these look drastically different in terms of how they are. And especially considering the fact that this one is often seen teamed up with another Heartless. Which, by the way, I would label this as a B, if I have not mentioned this. Now, as for the Heartless that we're talking about being paired with, this is potentially the Bizarre Archer. I like these guys. I like how they look. I love how they work and stuff like that. They're essentially a dwarf with bow and arrows. I kind of like them. I do like how they look. They're pretty cool looking. I'd probably label these little guys as probably an A. I just like how they look. They're so cool looking. And plus, whenever the air soldier lifts them up, they're pretty cool to fight them. It's pretty interesting. I like it. I forgot the large armor. Oh, I forgot the large armor. The large armor is seen in Days, especially. I kind of like how it looks. It's probably one of the more unique large body variant Heartlesses. I do like it. There are multiple different versions of the large armor. Multiple different versions. A lot more versions than I thought there was. Dear Lord, whenever I was looking into that, dear Lord, I did not realize there were so many different versions of it. There were some that was even stronger, some with different color versions and stuff like that. But I actually kind of like the large armor. I'd probably give this one a B. Speaking of large bodies, let's continue on the large body variants known as the helmed body. This one is essentially a large body, slightly different in terms of look, with a different looking helmet. It doesn't function any different than a large body though, despite the fact that it looks different and it might function differently. But whenever I fought it, I felt like as if it was still fighting a large body. So I don't think it's any different, so I'm just going to say it's probably a C. We have the High Soldier variant, very much reminiscent to that of the Soldier Heartless, except for the helmet. The helmet's the only difference. And I don't know why I don't care much for this look. I don't care much for the High Soldier look. I don't know why. The helmet is probably what it is, because essentially it's the same thing, except the helmet. The helmet is slightly different. You know, you have the Soldier Heartless, which is original. It's cool looking. I like it. This one, the helmet design, I'm not a fan of that look of the helmet. So I'd probably say this one would be a B. Let's talk about the various versions of, you're not going to believe it, what's called the Pot Cats. The Pot Cats have different versions of them. They are Focus Pot Cat, Magic Pot Cat. They're all kind of the same. They're kind of like the Bell Heartlesses in the sense of these are pot cats. They are cat-looking Heartlesses that are in pots. You don't see a lot of them. In fact, you don't really get to see that deep of a detail until you get to Arendelle, where there's like multiple looking pots. And they're all kind of the same. They all kind of blend in and stuff. And they die relatively quickly. But in terms of their overall design look, they're pretty cool. They're pretty interesting. Not vastly interesting though, so I probably label these as probably a D. Yeah, probably a D. I want to talk about the I believe Shredder. I'm not even sure how to pronounce this one, but then you also have the Mechtarn? That's a weird name to go by, but with that being said, both of these Heartless is essentially the same Heartless, it's just different versions. You have the Olympic version looking, and then you have the Sanford Tokyo version. And I'm going to tell you right now, despite the fact how they both look the same and how they act, design-wise, I kind of like one prefer the other. I like the Olympic version better than I do the Sanford version. So I'm going to label the Shrey version as a B, and the Mechtarn, I have no idea how to pronounce these things. I'm losing my mind. Steadily and slowly, I am losing my mind. So I'm going to label the Olympic version as B, and then the other one as C. We also have the Troll variant Heartlesses. These are Rock Troll from Olympic Coliseum, and then Metal Troll from Sanford Tokyo. And much like with the last one, I like one preferably than the other. I like the Rock Troll better. I think it's cool looking. I actually wish there was a figure of the Rock Troll. That's how much I like the Rock Troll. So I probably label the Rock Troll as an A, but the Metal Troll, it kind of reminds me of a Power Ranger enemy almost, in a weird way. In a weird way, it kind of reminds me of a Power Ranger. I don't know why. It just makes me think of that. But I'm going to label that as a B. The Pluff Ball Heartless. This is often seen with another Heartless known as the Chief Pluff. The Pluff Ball, though, I'd probably label it as a D. But when looking at the Chief Puff, I actually liked this one. Whenever I first saw this, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. This is pretty interesting. You have the fact that the Puff is actually an armor. And as you fight against its armor, it slowly loses the petals until ultimately it becomes bald. And it's pretty cool looking. I like the design of it. So I'm going to label this one as a B. I like it that much. I know I'm hopping back and forth between the worlds and stuff like that, and I do apologize, but it's so hard to keep track of all the different Heartlesses. And we've been at this so far for literally an hour and a half. I am losing my mind right now. But we have the Supreme Smasher. I want to say this one is also Possess, but we see it more often than we see the actual marionette alongside it. So I think this one is its own Heartless. So I kind of like it. I do. It's very unique. But it's not vastly unique in the sense of that it would be an A tier, but it's unique in the sense of that I would put it as a B tier. Toy Trooper. I kind of like this one. I do. You go from traditional to steampunk, and then you go futuristic, but it's plastic. I kind of like it. I like its jetpack, and I like its laser pointer that it's got and stuff. It's cute. I like it. It's not an A, but it's definitely a B. I like it. Chaos Carriage. Technically, this is classified as a boss, but during certain points within Kingdom Hearts, the Corona world, the land of Corona, that is. Can't believe we're saying that, but anyway, point is that this is seen multiple times actually, and really, if it was just one, it would be a normal Heartless. But since whenever you fight it as a boss form, you see it with 3 different chariots, so it's basically a boss slash enemy, depending on how you look at it. So in other words, if it's teamed up with more, it is classified as a boss. But if you see it by itself, it's classified as an enemy. Which is weird. I know, it's weird. But I'm still going to classify it regardless as an enemy, because as you kind of run back to the tower, you do see it quite often, depending. I kind of see, if I'm not mistaken, you see it at least 2 more times after its original fight. So I probably say, I would label this as a regular enemy. So, but I kind of like its design. I kind of like how it looks. It's a horse. The first half of it is a horse attached to what looks like a tower piece with wheels. Kind of weird concept now that I think about it. But either way, it's pretty cool looking. It's pretty interesting. It can be pretty hectic depending. It's one of the very few times we actually see a horse as a Heartless, unfortunately. So I kind of wish we see more horse-looking designs. So I probably label this one as probably a B. Pogo Shovel. I thought it was just one single Heartless. Now that I look at the design, it could be the fact that it's just a tiny little head with tiny little arms bouncing on a pogo stick shovel. It's an interesting design. It still reminds me of a gremlin, and because of that, I'm going to give it the same rank that I gave the drill mole, which is a B. Yeah, I labeled that one as a B, so I'm going to give this one a B as well. Pole Cannon. Sort of like the Cannon Heartless, except the fact that it can extend up in the air or shrink down to the ground. It's not that vastly unique in my opinion, so I'm probably going to label this as probably a C. Parasol Beauty. I'm not going to lie, when I saw this one, I was fairly surprised to see a different looking Heartless like this one, you know? It's elegant looking, but it's also threatening with the fact that its umbrella acts as a freaking laser. I don't know how that is, but it's freaking crazy. But it's pretty cool looking. I'd probably label this one as a B. Winter Horn. I love how this looks. It's a reindeer. It's a reindeer Heartless. I like how it looks. I love how cool it looks. It's pretty interesting. I love it. Do I love it enough to where I would put it as an A? It's close. But I'm probably going to label it as a B. This one, though, I will label it as an A because of how cool it looks. It's so freaking awesome looking. It literally looks like as if you took the design petals from Elsa and made a dragon out of it. It looks so cool. And the fact that the wings can be destroyed and it dives into the ground in order to attack you and stuff is so unique. I love it. Yes, it adds like a sub mini boss with the fact that 3 of them pop up to attack you at the same time. But afterwards, it can show up throughout the mountains whenever you're traversing it and stuff like that. I love the look of this. It's so cool. So I'm going to give this one an A. Tire Blade has 2 forms. You have the ground form, and then you have the air form. Both of which are basically the same. I do kind of like it. It's just unfortunate that sometimes you miss out on seeing the tire variant versus the air variant. So you see more of the air variant sometimes whenever you're fighting these things. But I do kind of like them. Probably label this, though, as a C, though. Spear Lizard. This one is supposed to be basically a sea creature soldier in Pirates of the Caribbean world, which I guess is supposed to kind of take on par variants from that of Davy Jones, which is a pretty cool idea. Just wish we saw the pirates more than we saw this, because this one just doesn't stand out as much. I don't care much for this one, sadly. So I'd probably say this one is, I want to give this one kind of, probably give this one a C. I don't really care much for its design now that I look at it more. I don't know if I should label this one or not, but since I technically labeled one other Heartless, which can only be seen with Ansem the Seeker of Darkness final form, I'm going to label this one as well, because we do see this quite a lot during the boss fight, and it's the Vaporfly. I kind of like it. I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like it. I like the fact that you can hop on it, and you can shoot stuff with it and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool, interesting design look. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like it. I probably label this one as probably a C. Anchor Raider. I love how this looks. This is so cool. It just kind of hangs around in the air, strikes you with a sword while swinging around with an anchor on this arm. I love how it looks. It is so cool. It is so deadly. I'm going to label this one as an A. I love it that much. I forgot to point out one other Heartless as I basically went back to look through to see if there was any Heartlesses that was like actual enemies that I might have missed, and sure enough there was. It just wasn't on the Wikipedia page that I was on. Point is, this is the Sea Spirit, Sea Sprite, I believe is what's properly pronounced, I don't know. But anyway, it basically looks like an electric eel. It's pretty interesting looking. They come in various colors. This one's the blue variant, there's a red and yellow one, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They're okay. I'd probably give this one a C ranking, though. And finally, finally, I thought I was going to lose my mind. I'm finally going to label the last Heartless, for the time being, the last Heartless of this entire list. Gosh, it took forever to label them all. We're going to talk about the Flan Heartless. The Flan Heartless design is pretty cool looking. I kind of like it. It definitely resembles how a flan looks, with how it has like a chocolate syrup for like a hair look design. It's got a crown with the different fruits on his head and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. I like it. I think it's pretty interesting. I would label this as a B. Yes, finally! Finally, I have labeled all of the Heartlesses with the exception of Union Cross, but I've labeled all of the Heartless and ranked them accordingly. Again, because of the fact that we have all of the different designs look, as well as the different color schemes and stuff like that. Oh my gosh. Oh, my head hurts trying to rank them all. Oh my gosh. My original ideal was to do it based on each Heartless set, based on the game that they're from. But then that would just encourage you guys to ask me to do other rankings like the Dream Eaters, the Nobodies, and the Unversed. And unlike them, the Heartless has just a humongous list, and I felt like trying to make them all into a single video, which now I realize that was a terrible idea. I should have just done it as separate parts. I don't know why I didn't do that. Gosh, this almost took me 2 hours to make this video, and unfortunately it's going to be compressed down to probably an hour at best. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below. Did I do a good job? Did I forget any Heartlesses? I probably did forget one or two. But because of how vastly large the list is, it is not easy to do. But with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Catch you guys later.